Okay, there we go. Hello, everyone. It's Robin here at the Good Place Bench during the International Conference of Urban Health in Marrakech. And I'm joined here by Agnieszka. Thank you so much for joining and taking the time to sit on the Good Place Bench. Please tell us a little bit more about yourself, what brought you to Marrakech, and where are you from?
Hello, thank you very much for inviting me to your podcast. My name is Agnieszka Olszewska-Guizzo and I'm a CEO of the NGO for research called NeuroLandscape. So my NGO joins together all the disciplines that I am interested in and my colleagues are interested in, which is the landscape architecture, neuroscience and psychology, and artificial intelligence. So all that, we join all these disciplines in research and profession, and also we advocate for some policy changes in order to create more mentally healthy cities and settlements. So this is pretty much the background and the area I'm at, and this is also the sort of message that we come to this conference with. And we try to look at how connection with nature, how different sorts of natural landscapes can influence people's mental health and well-being, and in general create healthier cities.
Yeah, because we touched upon it. Of course, you're a founder of the NGO, but you're also a landscape architect, right? And it's quite an important role to have when it comes to creating urban health.
Yes, it is quite important because architects usually do deal with the structures and infrastructures of the cities, different buildings and how they connect. And landscape architects like to look at everything from the bird's eye view. Yeah. And they consider much more than just particular buildings or the plots of land. And they try to look at many different aspects of lives and what the actual landscapes as a very complex systems can bring to people. Mm-hmm. And one of these things, in my opinion, very important thing that landscapes can bring to people is the better health and the healing power and power of creating well-being for those, especially those in need.
Especially those in need. Okay. So is it also partly prevention, or is it mostly also helping people curing?
Yeah, so it's actually both. The nature connection is proven by science to already. There is already enough evidence to prove that the contact with nature being accessible and in the close proximity to people has protective effects on it protects us from developing different diseases. Yeah. And it also helps cure the diseases, so it has a healing power. And now at NeuroLandscape we take it even step further and we try to investigate what sorts and aspects of nature, so what landscape characteristics, what types of composition and landscape views, landscape elements, what sort of biodiversity is the most beneficial and can create a very beneficial patterns of activity in our brain and in our whole system, and also in a scale of community.
Interesting. So this is really research-led kind of initiative, plus you also coming up with interventions to test it?
Yeah, we are conducting a lot of research, and then we are trying to translate the research into practice, the design practice, and then at the policy level to make a real change. As we know, there is always the gap between the research world, what scientists publish in scientific journals, articles, and what is actually going on in the decision-making process, the legislation process. So we are trying to connect this gap, and in my view, if we are basing design of our built environment on our everyday space on anything, it should be science, it should be the evidence.
Okay.
Why would we base it on anything else? But for some reasons we've been doing that for decades, for centuries really. Basing our city design and design of our buildings, neighborhoods, everyday life on the historic styles, trends, fashions, big architects' names.
Opinions?
Yes.
People's opinions?
Right, yeah, people's
Participation.
opinions, peers, or whatever other nuances. But we don't not enough base it on the scientific evidence. The evidence coming from from humans' bodies, humans' perception studies, and what I do from human brains. So that's what we are looking for. We want to create the frameworks for design for people, mental health and well-being based on evidence.
And are there already examples out there that governments have adopted your research in particular cities?
Yes, there are two examples. One is Singapore and another one is Sweden. So I've been doing some research in Singapore for a couple of years where the framework called contemplative landscape model, which is like categorizing and breaking down the landscape features and components into like a very quantitative model. So they, in their new approach to develop a network of public therapeutic gardens, they use the design principles for contemplative landscapes that are tested with neuroscience tools. They induce the specific beneficial pattern of brain activity. So in Singapore, they started designing the public therapeutic gardens for all citizens across the city-state based off of this framework. And in Sweden, they've been adopting the same framework, which is like very technical, like steps for designers, and also for evaluating the spaces. They are adopting it for evaluation of the nature-based therapy providers in the nature rehabilitation program that they have in Sweden. So we are seeing more interest from policymakers and from governmental institutions in this sort of, evidence-based design.
You're also addressing some interesting topics there. I mean, nature, mental health. I mean, those are high on the agenda for these governments.
Yeah. I think it's always easier to convince anybody, whether they are residents or policymakers, that something is worth investing in and worth attention when there is some evidence, some proof, and if it is done with the rigorous scientific methods that we already know about, and we can do such things to prove that certain types of environments are more beneficial to us than others.
And are you sharing your findings here during the conference?
I'm sorry?
Are you sharing these findings now during this conference?
Yeah, sure. So we have so many moments for networking, and this is the most valuable sharing experience. But we also have some posters here.
Okay.
We are presenting the work from part of our big project that we are now conducting with the Green Me consortium. It's a European scale project funded by Horizon Europe, where we are mapping the green care, so nature-based therapies across European continent and the US. So we present the the findings from that exercise here through the poster, and we also talk about the contemplative landscape model and all this, what I mentioned, the neuroscience-based landscape components, also on a poster. So these are our main platforms to connect to like-minded people from all these wonderful disciplines coming here.
Yeah, tell us a bit more. Like, this community, is that new to you, or do you meet a lot of new and interesting people?
Well, actually, this is my third ICUH conference. I've been previously in Portugal and in China, Xiamen, a couple of years ago, and I always find this conference very interesting, and I always meet a lot of interesting people here on that conference. So
Has also like seek for a lot of collaboration as well?
yes, we are definitely looking for collaboration in Europe, but also globally. We are trying to reach out to Africa. That's why we are here, and also we are trying to do more research projects, more studies with our Asian partners. And those two continents, for different reasons, mainly the opportunity that the site specificity is giving. I'm always looking at how we can inform better development of urban settlements in the global south and places that are more mentally healthy. I feel that sometimes the mental health is a little bit at the back seat in terms of priorities, but in fact it's a big issue, and in the developing countries, in the global south as well, especially with a growing number of population and urban population, it's becoming a very big issue, which gives an opportunity for more research and more knowledge being generated.
So you're pushing the agenda a little bit here and creating more urgency around the topic mental health.
Well, I think the urgency is already there. I don't really have to push it. Yes. There has to be just advocates who will inform and recognize this urgency. This is what I'm trying to do.
As you know, you're on a good place bench. So the question also is, what is a good place to you? And what should we all do to make sure that our places where we live become or remain a good place?
Okay, so I will have to answer from the scientific point of view and from the point of view of my research and data that I can't not mention it. So the good place to me is the place that induces in us the positive response, and we are exposed to this place in enough frequency and length, duration, so that this effect can remain, and it can basically create how we feel. So if we look at our everyday experience every day as like a film footage, we should be looking at what we are seeing, what is the majority of things we are seeing. Are these things building us up, or they are destructive and unhealthy? And actually nature is one of the most promising views, so we can see how much the nature exposure and landscapes exposure takes up, how much space it takes up in that daily footage. And if majority of that is, for example, nature outdoors, how we connect with other people, and what we see and perceive is the exposure to those positive, good things, then we can say we are in a good place.
You're on a nice mission, I think.
That's a very technical definition, I think, but you can. That's improvised.
You finished off strongly by.
I tried.
Agnieszka, thank you so much for your time and sharing your work with us. Beautiful, and I think it's a nice showcase as well to share with others. So thank you for your time. Have a beautiful day, and talk to you to the next one.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye. Ciao.
Bye.